Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our C# programming tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can overload operators in C#. Now, what is operator overloading? Well, when we're overloading an operator, that pretty much means that we are providing additional functionality to an operator. For example, in C# by default, the plus operator, as an example, can add strings together. It can add integers, doubles, decimals, floats, all that stuff. It can add all that stuff together, and it'll give you a new resulting value. Well, we can also provide an implementation of the plus operator to add together our own objects. Now, there are some do's and don'ts with operator overloading. One of the biggest ones being if what you're doing is a simple task that can easily be done with only a couple lines of code and a single method, just do that. And that if what you want to do with an overloaded operator goes contrary to the semantic meaning of the operator, so for example, if you let's say you want to perform an operation that is semantically similar to how the minus operator is supposed to work, and you assign that to the plus operator, you shouldn't do that because that's not going to make sense. And three, if operator overloading makes sense, like if it's a scenario where your code will benefit performance-wise and readability-wise and stuff like that, then you should possibly consider it. But you have to be very strict. You have to be very stringent, very strict about when you do operator overloading, because if you do operator overloading too much and in the wrong way, it can impact the readability and reusability of your code very easily, and you don't, very easily in a negative way, and you don't want that. Right? So keep all that in mind. You can take a look at the C# reference as well as other pieces of C# documentation to kind of get a better idea of what Microsoft recommends for operator overloading with C# and all that stuff, because that's generally the go-to resource for that. But let's get started in actually overloading the plus operator. So in Visual Studio Code, I have a custom collection. Now, this collection is called My Collection. We have all kinds of methods in here that helps this collection act like a stack. We have an indexer. We have all that stuff. Everything that we've done before. We even have a property called size, which will retrieve the amount of elements inside of the internal data of this collection. Because remember, I gave you that challenge before. This is how I have it in this example here. All right? So, how do we overload an operator? Well, to do that, inside of the class that you want affected by this operator, so in this case, we want to combine two instances of My Collection together. So this should go inside of the My Collection class. We make this public static. So public static. And then we need to specify the return type. So what type is returned with this operator? In this case, it'll be an instance of My Collection. Space, and then we need to use operator The operator keyword tells this operator keyword tells .NET and C# that, hey, this method is going to specifically overload the functionality of an operator. After the operator keyword, we need to specify the specific operator that we're going to overload, and that is the plus operator. Now, inside of the C# reference, inside of all the C# documentation on operator overloading, you will find a list of operators that can be overloaded, and anything outside of that list cannot be overloaded. In particular, all the binary operators can be overloaded. The logical operators and comparison operators like equals or less than equal to, greater than equal to, stuff like that, those cannot be overloaded. I recommend that you go and look at the C# reference guide as well as the C# language guide documentation to get more information on that. Very important if you want to use operator overloading. Anyway, so now we need to give it a parameter list. And this parameter list is going to contain the left and right sides of our operator. In other words, our operands. The first is going to be the left-hand operand. I'm going to call it LHS. We're going to say my collection. LHS, comma, my collection RHS. Now, we can open up the body of our method here. And so now, inside of the body of this operator overload, we're actually going to perform the logic that needs to be performed when we use the operator. In this case, we need to combine both of these lists. But how exactly do we do that? That we can't exactly access the internal list from each of these objects. Well, that's why I have a push method. And we have the size property. This will allow us to loop through the one of the collections and add it to the other, and then return the combined collection. Okay, so what we'll do is we will define a myCollection instance. We'll call it combined collection, and we'll set it equal to the left-hand operand initially. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to loop through the right-hand operand and add it to the combined collection. And we can do this by saying for int I equals 0, I is less than RHS dot size, I plus plus. Open up that for loop, and then we can say combined collection dot push RHS I. Like that. And then finally, after we've done our for loop, we can return combined collection. Like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back into Program CS here. I'm going to get rid of all of this. And what we'll do is we'll then create 2 instances of my collection, each with their own numbers inside of them. So my collection, we'll call it C equals a new my collection C dot push 1 Okay. There we go. We have one of my collection where we're pushing the values 1, 2, and 3. And then we can say my collection C2 equals new my collection C2 dot push 4 C2 push 5 C2 dot push 6. Okay, and then finally we can say my collection C3 equals C plus C2. Go ahead and save this. And then here we can do a for int I equals 0. I is less than C3 dot size I plus plus. And we can say console write line C3I. Let's try that again. Console write line C3I, like that. Okay. Go ahead and save this code. Let's go into our terminal and .NET run. Okay, we have an error. Okay, so I'm going to again make sure I know exactly what's going on here. Okay, so on line 24, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Ah. There we go. Let's try that now. Okay, and there we go. Now that I've fixed that error in my own code, you can see now we get all of the numbers in those collections. Let's go back to Program CS and make sure that I didn't screw anything up over here, because Lord knows I can do that sometimes. Okay. Clear .NET Run. And so there we go. We have our collections combined into a single collection. That pretty much does it for this video, guys, on how we can overload operators in C#. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.